Hello BookTube, it's Leah Cooper here, and I am very belatedly bringing you my April wrap-up. So I've been pretty MIA from BookTube. I think I know I talked about it when I was filming a previous video, but I think I cut that footage out of the final product because I thought it was too off topic of what that video was about. But basically, I'm just not making videos to make videos right now. I've decided to go ahead and just make the videos that I want to make or that I feel inspired to make for my own kind of edification, and I'm really not gonna put a lot of pressure on myself to try to grow the channel by posting lots of content, because I mean it's pretty common knowledge that the way to grow on YouTube is to just post a lot and post regularly, and that's kind of what I was trying to do all of last year, and I'm just not gonna force myself to do that anymore. So the videos that I personally like to do are wrap-ups, TBRs, book reviews, and occasionally a chat if I have something to chat about. I haven't had anything really to chat about because life has been pretty low-key recently. So yeah, those are really the only videos I'm going to be making for the foreseeable future. You know, I'm kind of in a reading slump as well, so that is not conducive to making booktube videos, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going anywhere, the channel's not disappearing or anything, I'm just not going to be posting 12 to 15 videos a month. But that aside, let's get into talking about the things that I read in April, because for the most part they were pretty good. The first thing I finished was a collection of short stories by Kelly Barnhill called Dreadful Young Ladies and Other Stories. I have a full review of this. I will link it up above. You can go ahead and check it out. I give this collection 4.5 5 stars. I thought it was a really solid, excellent collection, and I would highly recommend it. It's basically a dozen or so short stories exploring fantastical and fabulous worlds and realms with extremely unique female protagonists. The next thing I read was a novella by Courtney Milan called Talk Sweetly to Me. This was the final novella in her Brother Sinister series, which I read a ton of in February, but then this one I had to put on hold and had to wait a while to get it into my library, so finally read it last month. That completes my read of The Brother Sinister by Courtney Milan, which is a series of Victorian historical romance novels with wonderful protagonists, a big emphasis on business and science, particularly women's involvement in science in the Victorian era. This novella was pretty good. I gave it a 4 stars. It hasn't stuck super clearly in my mind, though the protagonist was a young woman who was working in mathematics and particularly astronomy, kind of working as like a computer for an astronomer, and I thought that angle was really great. And yeah, there's a lot of talk about stars and stuff, and I mean it's solid. I think overall this was an excellent historical romance series if you're looking for something het set in the Victorian era. It's worth picking up. It's worth checking out. The next thing I read was Binti Home. This is the second series in the Binti trilogy of novellas by Nadia Korafor. I think it's a trilogy. I don't think there's going to be any more. I read this for the BookTube Best of Awards. This has been nominated in the short fiction category. This was included in a joint review I did with Binti Home and All Systems Red, which is another book nominated in that category. You can check that out. I will leave a link up above in the cards. I think I'm pointing to the wrong side of the screen, but whatever. You guys know the drill. I gave this one 3 stars. Overall, I'm not really a big fan of the Binti books. I think conceptually, thematically, they're interesting, but Nadia Korafor's writing really doesn't work for me. I go into more detail about that in the review, so if you're interested, you can check it out. Like I said, I've been kind of in a massive reading slump. I'm reading an arc right now that's good, but not very bingey. Like, it's not something I can just sit down and like read in 1 or 2 days. It takes kind of contemplation. I have to kind of get myself to in the right headspace to read it, because it's kind of a serious topic. And I'm not going to go into what this book is, because it is an arc, so I will be doing a full review of it once I finish reading it. But I've been reading it for like the last month. So in between reading it, or as I was reading it, I really wanted to just read like fluff, easy to read, easily entertaining kind of stories, so that I was still like reading a decent number of pages per day, even though I couldn't binge this arc in that way. So the next thing I read was Once Upon a Marquess by Courtney Milan, and this is another historical romance. It's the first book in another series by Courtney Milan, though I don't think she's actually continued the series. Like, I still don't think the actual book 2 is out yet, but that's another story. This is about a woman whose father was convicted of treason. Father and older brother were convicted of treason like 8 or so years ago, and the evidence that was found that convicted them was found by the brother's very good friend and the protagonist's at the time love interest. Like, they weren't betrothed, but they were going to get betrothed as soon as she had come of age, because she was like 17, right? And so the father was hanged, I think. And then the brother was like shipped off to the South Pacific in one of those like prisoner work debt things, but he never reached his destination and he disappeared. And the family was left utterly ruined, and the eldest sister, the protagonist, has like been struggling to eke out and claw and keep 2 of her younger siblings like with a roof over their head, food, and she's been trying to earn enough money so that she can set it aside for her 2 sisters' dowries and to send her little brother to Eton. And she set aside some money for one of her sisters who doesn't live with them, and sent it off to that sister to be her dowry, because her sister had just come of age. And then the money disappeared, and so she needs someone whose voice her lawyer can't ignore, and so she calls on the help of the man who ruined their family as like a favor to her, even though, you know, she hates his guts now, right, because he ruined everything, etc. And the tale spins quite a ways from that, and it's really good. There are a lot of unanswered questions by the end of the story that I'm just like, I really want to know what happens, and there's no actual sequel, so I don't know when it's gonna be continued. So anyways, I gave this book 4 stars. It was really good. It was exactly what I wanted. It was engaging. I think you can tell I really genuinely love Courtney Milan's historical romance novels, and I would continue to recommend them. After that, I did read Her Every Wish, which is a sequel novella to Once Upon a Marquess. It involves a romance between the friend of the protagonist from Once Upon a Marquess, and it deals with trade and lower, I don't want to call them middle class, because it's not quite what we're working with here. It's kind of like not quite impoverished, but somewhere between impoverished and very lower middle class people in the Victorian era, and it's really solid too. I gave it another 4 stars just because, you know, it was entertaining, it was engaging, and it was the kind of fluff that I wanted to read. And you know what? I think that was all that I read last month. I was reading 2 other things during April, but I didn't finish either of them in April, so they will be included in my May wrap-up. It wasn't a super great reading month. I think I read slightly less than 1,500 pages, which is really not great. I'm super behind on my Goodreads reading goal, which is to read 100 books this year. So far I'm on track to read like 65 books this year, I think. And to be honest, I've really been padding my book, like number of books read, by reading a lot of novellas so far this year, but I'm just kind of slumpy. So far this month, I've only finished two things. One of those was an audiobook and one of those was a novella again. And the month is half over. And it's really bad. And I'm still so far behind on reading arcs. Thanks for watching. Let me know down below how your reading is going. Are you doing really well? Are you kind of having a slump too? I don't know. Maybe it's just this time of year. I'm kind of stuck with a book writing project too, which certainly doesn't help. So usually when I'm stuck in a book project, I will read more. That's not happening. Let me know what you do to get out of a book slump. I'm very curious. And as always, if you're not always subscribed, but you enjoy listening to me ramble on about books and you're looking for some more, romance recommendations, because I'm apparently on a kick. It's the only thing I can read lately. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.